The School of Dragon Riders. Prologue. It was dark. The sun had been down for a few hours now, and the moon was the only light that allowed him to see. He was on the ground, lying next to a woman. The woman wore a white dress, her hair black as the night, and her face was as pale. The only thing that was not beautiful about her was the red blood stain around her heart. His eyes were full of tears at the sight of the lifeless body of his wife. He felt the monster inside of him trying to take over again. As it jerked his body violently, he let out a muffled scream of pain and sadness, clenching his fist. He felt his teeth getting sharper as shadows around him started getting thicker, but he used all of his strength to suppress it. And there was something else, but he couldn't remember what it was. Then he heard a crying of a small child, his child. He needed to get her to safety. He stood up shakily, blood all over his hands. How did he end up here? Had he become something he vowed to destroy? The crying was coming from close by, seemingly from a bush. His wife tried to hide the baby from the monster by sacrificing herself. He felt another jerk from inside. He fell to the ground, gripping the grass while trying to sustain his screams of pain. He could never control it, only suppress it, but it could control him. He stood up once more, wiping his eyes with a bloody hand. He staggered over to the bush. There in the bushes was a small baby girl. She had locks of raven black hair sprouting from her head. Opening her bright green eyes, her crying stopped immediately as she looked up at him with a smile. He smiled too, but the tears streamed down his face. And what had he done? He picked up the child, whispering soothing words until it fell asleep. He needed to get her away from him because he was too dangerous. Keeping him with her was out of the question. There was a village nearby, Stonetooth. He could leave her there, go to the outlands, and get as far away from her as possible. He knocked on the door of a blacksmith's house. He heard good things about the man wounded, and he might agree to take her in. Sudden footsteps were heard along with the crying of another baby. The blacksmith opened the door. "How can I help you?" he asked, ignoring all the blood on the little man's clothes. The stranger had a small child in his arms, slightly bigger than his own was, with raven hair, while his own child had a blonde hair. "Take this child and raise it as your own, I beg you," he answered, feeling his monster trying to break free again. After thinking for a few seconds, the blacksmith took in the condition of his late-night guest, and he knew he had to help. "Give the child to me. I will take her. Raise her well." Chapter 1. Blood distorted my vision. It flowed all around me. Unable to move, I tried to make out my surroundings. I couldn't feel the blood. I simply knew it was there. Suddenly, my vision cleared. All I could see was the chaos unfolding around me. My gaze flew across a rocky cliffside with the sea crashing on the rocks. A nice view, you must think. However, I saw anything but nice, because dead bodies covered the dull, dirty ground, turning the green grass red. The sight was far from pleasing, so I tried to look away, just to find out that I couldn't. Could this have been a dream sent by the famous dragon riders to punish me for playing tricks on the village folk? I admitted, I like tricking people. I am called mean and evil for doing so, but it is all the fun and adventure I can get. Scaring them a bit is rather like a hobby for me, like shouting that we are under attack in the middle of the night. However, I couldn't imagine that this was happening. Was I really being punished for my pranks? That was impossible, so I concentrated on the battlefield, trying to find the meaning in what was happening before me. Just then I noticed living beings. On the side of the clearing were ogres, bloody and weary from a battle. On the other side, humans. They were bloody and tired looking as well. Everyone knew about the war that we humans had with ogres. I still didn't understand why we had to fight so much. I was sure that peace could be found. Nevertheless, as adults told me repeatedly, it was none of my concern and I should stay out of it. A sudden battle cry was heard from the biggest ogre, whom I'd assumed was the commander. He said something in their language. I didn't speak ogre and I never knew anyone who did. So to me, it was just a series of growls and shouts. Humans roared as well, and various shapes began filling the sky. Dragons. I heard stories about dragon riders, so seeing them in a dream was truly remarkable. I never saw a dragon myself, though there aren't many riders that are usually at the school or at war. The size of dragons didn't vary a lot. but they had different colorings and markings. I saw blue, white, yellow, red, and many other colors. From what I knew about dragons from stories, they were all strong, clever, and could spit fire. Some were faster, some were stronger, and some were smarter, but it had nothing to do with the color. As the two clouds of dragons were about to collide, I heard a voice. "Medea, wake up." Suddenly, I was jerked away from the interesting dream to find myself safe and warm in my bed. It was a little before dawn and my father was calling me. I have no mother, since she died when I was young, too young to even remember her. Why would my father wake me up so early? Then I remembered. It was choosing day. You see, each year in the village in the human kingdom, riders would come to test children my age, which is 14, for magic. There's a magic stone, and if you have magic, it shines when you touch it. There are many magical abilities. My mother was a dragon rider, and she had mind. Some people have an element when they are born, some even two, and a test is done to see which one they have when they get to school. There are 4 basic elements, which are most common: water, fire, earth, and wind. Powerful casters control ice as well as water, or create large hurricanes with their wind power. The advanced elements are darkness, which could allow their casters to turn invisible or create shadows. If they are powerful, they can summon dark creatures, which is the rarest. And then there's mind, which allows the caster to read people's minds, make them forget, and if powerful, control them. Next is light, which involves healing. And the last are shapeshifters, who can shift into different animals, and is another rare element. I groaned as I slid my aching legs out of the bed. All afternoon the day before, I was running from angry kids. They were angry with me because I had hidden their toys. In spite of them being younger, I couldn't win a fight against them. I was outnumbered, and I wasn't good at fistfights, so I preferred running instead of fighting. "Good morning, Father. I haven't had the chance to ask you about your day yesterday evening, so tell me now," I said, hoping that he didn't find out about my little joke. I tried sounding casual, but realized I was being too formal. It was fine if we pretend that some parents didn't come to me complaining that you hid their children's toys. I let out a hoarse laugh. I hid them close to their houses. They have probably found them by now, unless they are complete idiots, I said as I ate my breakfast, which was nothing special, just some eggs. Father sighed. "You really need to stop doing that. I don't understand what you find so amusing and satisfying about hiding other kids' toys. Right now, though, you need to hurry because the choosing begins at dawn. Dress nicely. I have to go to the workshop now, but I'll see you at the ceremony." He left the house. I finished my breakfast and went back to my small room. I chose black leather pants with a formal green and black shirt. I liked the forest very much, so I wore a lot of green. The forest represented freedom and it was beautiful. I also wore black simply just because I like black. After getting ready, I slid out of the house, closing and locking the door behind me. My sister was there waiting for me. Yes, I have a sister and her name is Tanya. She's the good one, helping children find the toys I hid. She's also stronger than I am and gives me quite a beating if I go too far with my jokes. Nevertheless, she loves me and takes care of me. She's only a few months older than I am, but acts as if she is the one in charge. Kids love her and I don't despise her, just find her a bit annoying. We don't look alike at all. I have straight black hair and dark eyes, and I'm a bit small, fast, but agile. My nose is just a little too big. Tanya is big and strong with clear blue eyes and curly blonde hair. She really is pretty. We are very different in personality as well. With her being the good one and me being the bad one, I really don't mind my status. For younger kids respect me while Tanya is just loved. "Good morning. You overslept again, but we won't be late if we hurry. I have a good feeling about this," Tanya said. She's an optimist and thus had a good feeling about everything. I was the realist in the family. Let's face it, I am the smarter one. I can take care of myself, you know. Won't be late. I'm sad that Jordan might be a little late since he can't go without his shoes, I said as I started to walk towards the village center. At my words, Tanya stopped, so I had stopped as well. I narrowed my eyes looking at her. She looked a bit angry. "What did you do now, Medea?" she asked, grabbing me by the collar of my shirt. We never got along well. "Calm down. He left them near the lake, so I put them up on a tree yesterday. I'm sure he'll find them." Tanya growled and threw me against the ground. I felt a sudden pain in my back, but it disappeared quickly as always. Throwing me to the ground was Tanya's hobby. I paid her back using my mind, of course. Since I couldn't use force against her, maybe I'll trip her up when she's called to touch the stone. I decided, not exactly the most intelligent pigback, but it would do. I got up, shooting her a glare. We continued and I was silent the whole way. I tried to think of a good thing to do when her name is called, but I couldn't think of anything at the moment. When we approached the village center, I noticed that many of the children were already assembled, and I dragged Tanya away from the others, not wanting their little revenge plans to ruin this day. Some of them were shooting me mean looks, which I didn't like. At the center of the assembled kids stood two men. Between them was a lot of space that I assumed was made so the dragons would have a place to land when they called them. I felt excited to see dragons that weren't in just a dream. There weren't many kids my age in the village, around 25 at most, so there was enough space for everyone to see everything and be able to breathe. After about 5 minutes, one of the men stepped forward, clearing his throat for attention. "Hello, children of Stonetuth. You all know the reason you are here. In my hand, I am holding the magic stone. As you know, it shines blue if a person touching it has magic, and that one is even rarer." And he was interrupted by a boy running towards the center. It was, of course, Jordan. He looked as if he had gotten ready in a hurry, no idea why. He was gasping for breath as he approached the two men. "She," he said, pointing at me while catching his breath, "hid my shoes." His voice was filled with anger, and the next thing I knew, he was launching himself at me. I dodged his little attempt to land on me, and he fell to the ground. Almost everyone was laughing except for him and Tanya. Tanya grabbed me by my shirt collar, another one of her hobbies. Medea apologized. No, he was the one to attack me first. "I'm warning you, I'm not afraid of you." The man lifted Jordan off the ground and put him next to a few boys far away from me, breaking our argument. "Well, let's continue, hopefully with no more interruptions," he said, looking at me. I shrugged. I didn't remember hiding anyone else's shoes, so there shouldn't be any more interruption caused by my mischief. As I said, you will come, touch the stone. I will call you by your name. When it is all over, the chosen will remain here and the others will go home. He pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket and called the first name. Marcy Argyle, he called. She was the only one with the last name starting with an A. After her were Tanya and Marcy stepped forward, shaking a bit. I liked tricking her a lot because she's as quiet as a mouse and does nothing about it. She touched the stone, but nothing happened. "Thank you, Marcy. Now, Medea Baros, my time." I stepped forward, trying to look confident while I was feeling like a mouse. I approached the stone and touched it. For a second, nothing happened. Then the stone began to shine blue. Everyone gasped. Not me, though. I was too shocked to make a sound. "Medea has an element. Go to the back of the line, Medea, and let go of the stone," he said as I realized I was standing there with my hand touching the stone. I walked back to Tanya, who hugged me. I could tell she was extremely happy for me. She was the most unselfish person in the world. For that reason, I decided not to trip her as she was called. Again, nothing happened, but her stone shined blue. Tanya came back and hugged me again. The rest of the ceremony was a blur. There were only 5 of us at the end. Luckily, none of them was my enemy. Everyone except us left, and the men smiled wildly. "Welcome. You are now officially the chosen ones. Tomorrow at dawn, we will wait for you here. Then we will fly directly to the school. There is no need to bring anything with you. You will choose your clothes at the school, and you will have a large selection from which to choose. When you get there, you will get your dragon, and you will walk down the hallway of eggs, one by one. If an egg starts moving a bit, it means the dragon inside of you has chosen you to be his or her rider. You will be told more about that when we arrive. On the second day at the school, you will be tested to see which element you have. After that, you will be given a mentor to train you. Again, more of that will be revealed to you once we get to the school. Go home, say your goodbyes, and be happy.